Welcome to another episode of Inside the Chambers. I'm your host, Bria Tai, and this is a podcast where we explore business, law, and community development in the Bahamas. Today I'm here with Senator Latrae Rahming, who is the Director of Communications to the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And today we are going to discuss community development and overall growth in the Bahamas. So thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, and I want to congratulate you on your podcast.
Thank
and
you.
I'm happy to be selected as a guest.
Thank you. We are so happy to have you and so excited for this discussion.
Definitely.
Yes, I'd like to start by asking you the golden question.
Yes.
What inspired your passion for public service and overall community development?
I mean, I think for me, for the most part, I would say my personal upbringing. Mm-hmm. I think that all of our personal life story either inspires us in a particular direction. Mm-hmm. And for me, I came from, I believe, like a two-tiered family structure. My father family did predominantly well. My mother was come from a working class family. Mm-hmm. She was a hotelier by trade. And I felt that I felt that there was an obligation for persons of my background to go into politics and to represent working class families, and to understand that there is a segment of our country where the system don't really tilt towards them. And so I felt that it's better to advocate for your story from in the inside. And I think that our personal upbringing help inspire public policy, because we have a much more empathetic understanding of what people go through. So I think my personal life story drew me to wanting to do public service.
So could you tell us the exact timeline as to how you transitioned into public service? At what point in your life did that actually occur?
I think there was always somewhat of a pull towards it. I do believe that there were some aspects of my life. I joined. Maybe we were to separate when you were in school and you had that representation in school. But when I was at the age 15, I went to a PLP convention with my mom at the time, who were real supporters of the then Prime Minister Christie. And I was at the back room of the convention center, and I wanted to be a part of this organization, and I didn't know how to be a part of the organization. And then I started to go into the weekly Young Liberals meetings, and I got involved from 15. I've been in politics from age 15. And then I remember the advice of the then Prime Minister Christie, who said to me, I asked him, how do one succeed in political life, and how do one become a part of the leadership of the organization? And his advice to me, which was so mundane and dry at the time, was to stay around. And if you stay around, it becomes your classroom. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so insignificant as advice. But looking back now, I could see the merit of it, mm-hmm. staying around. And so I've got involved from age 15.
Wow.
I was fortunate enough to come across some good mentors who helped guide my way. And the rest was history.
Wow, that's amazing. So you are also the leader of the Women Dem Foundation. Could you please tell us a bit more about that? Specifically, what inspired that name for the foundation?
Yeah. So I was looking for a space outside of politics. Mm-hmm. I think that being director of communication is a very tough job, and I thought that people have to see different sides of a person, and one of the things that I thought was good, which was a niche, was I was just giving dating advice on TikTok.
Giving what advice?
Dating advice on
dating advice. Oh wow!
Yeah, so I was telling women what men should do, how much they should pay, and
wow!
And so it just gathered a following, and then unfortunately, Rodney Monka passed away, and then there was this vacancy of who now becomes the leader of the Women Dem. And so I did this year campaign saying, listen, I'm running to become leader of the Women Dem. I hope you have your support. And I continued to give my advice, and I did buy a Bahamian woman lunch day to take a Bahamian woman shopping. And so it became so trendable. It started to trend. And then I say, you know what, based on the public support and understanding, I suspect that I should be the leader of the woman now. And so I assumed the role. And then I became a senator. And I realized that there was a greater expectation of me beyond Instagram, TikTok trends. And I knew that people wanted to see multiple versions of Latrae. And people wanted me to remain the same. So I think a compromise was to take this platform and do something to help others. And so what I decided to do was I was going to do a foundation focused entirely on women, education, small businesses, and also women who have foundations focus on women.
Okay.
Yeah, or focus on what they're doing. And so it went from something that was trending and dating advice to something much more significant, which was empowering women in their own space, education. And I think one of the things that really inspired and promoted me was my mom, who started off as a hotelier. She didn't have the opportunity to go to university. She didn't go to university until later on in life, which is now. And she is now doing a bachelor's in human resource management. But it showed me that there was a section of our society who wants to embrace lifelong learning, who you could inspire that it's not too late to improve yourself and not too late to. And so one part of my foundation is that I give a educational grant to women over the age of 40 who want to really go back and to improve themselves.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So as the Director of Communications, what are your duties and obligations? What are the duties and obligations that come with that role?
I would say, first and foremost, to educate the Bahamian people on what the government of the Bahamas is doing in their name. And secondly, to defend and protect the reputation of the Bahamas, and by extension the government of the Bahamas, and to advance the Prime Minister's, I wouldn't say image because I don't like that description, but obviously my job is to promote the work of the Prime Minister as well, and his wider administration. And so that's crisis communication, external communications, strategic communications, speech writing development, but most of my job entails crisis communications.
What are some of the challenges associated with that role?
It is difficult to communicate, and we call them low-informed voters. So these are persons who don't really watch the news, who don't really stay up to date of what's going on. They just live their lives. They get too much going on and have time to. Their life doesn't allow for them to really stay in tune. And so how do you reach this demographic of what's going on in government? And then secondly, I think the most difficult part of the job is the fact that government is siloed. And everyone do their own thing, everyone say their own thing. But for the most part, for the last 5 years, we've been able to break that silo and have a much more unified government communications. I would hope so.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for any young Bahamians who are looking to get into public work?
I would, my advice would be definitely to find the thing that you're passionate about, whether it's education, whether it's security, because, obviously you need to find something that's going to drive you, and it's going to drive your involvement. It's going to cause you to want to wake up every life. But I always say there's two tiers of public service. There is people who are technocrats and people who want to serve others. So you could be involved in politics and not necessarily be on the front line, but you may want to be the person who help work behind the scene, because at the end of the day, public life is about liking people, and some people just don't do well with liking people. and the worst formula to have is someone in politics who don't like people. I mean, it's very hard to pretend a very long time. So I would say the first thing is make sure that you like people, and then make sure that you because public life comes with its pros and its cons. It is rewarding, but Bahamians believe that those in public life is public furniture, and in the sense that they own you, and they could say whatever they want, and so you have to be prepared to give selflessly, and also take on all of it coming with. But my thing, find what you're passionate about. I always also the irony of it, when I always give advice to young people who come to me for advice and want to be involved, I never encourage them to support either the PLP or the FNM. I've not solicited that support. Mm-hmm. I've always tried to be an honest broker. And I say, look at both political parties and see which one align best with you. Mm-hmm. And I tell them why I'm a PLP and what brought me to the organization. And sometimes my story inspired them to do so. Find what you're passionate about. Take the time to evaluate both political parties and see which one align with your interests, or find a way to contribute to something you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be being a member of parliament, but it could be behind the scenes. But I think more importantly, find a mentor. This is a very difficult role in public life if you don't have a mentor, because you need someone who will have the ability to teach you along the way and to give you the best advice. And I must say that my advice for women wanting to enter the space, and one of my I always believe that my entire communication team was predominantly women. And it was because I believe if you want to get a job, then you give it to a woman. And I think that it would be good to see more women step forward in public life, and because I've seen a habit of them being able to get things done.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. I completely agree. I found with a lot of the interviews that we've done here on Inside the Chambers, we've explored the significance of mentorship. So how, if somebody was just completely new to this, how would they go about finding a proper mentor?
Great point. I think one of the things I think is the easiest thing to do is to be someone who is willing to learn. I mean, to be a sponge absorb from everybody else. Yeah. Secondly, willing to do the job that nobody wants to do. I find that in public life or in government and public policy, there's always a vacuum. There's a vacuum in roles, and there's a vacuum on doing the job that no one else wants to do. When you go into the space and you do the job that no one else wants to do, and you prove yourself, responsibility always finds you. Like, people always give you additional responsibility, additional duties. Mm-hmm. With that comes a proximity of access, because you now develop yourself as the person who's willing to learn and be around and to absorb the vacuum. And people say, no, let's give it to him. Let him do it. And that gives you the space and the proximity to the room. Mm-hmm. And so you go from the person who want to be helpful, the person who want to take on the job that nobody want to do, the person who execute the job that nobody want to do. And that capability gives you proximity to the room. That proximity to the room gives you the proximity to the mentors in the room. Yeah. And then you go from the person from the outside to the person on the inside, and now you have access to this wealth of wisdom around you. Right. Simply because you did the job that no one wanted to do. And there's always a vacuum in these environments.
Absolutely.
And so I just find my vacuum, I found my niche, I did the jobs that nobody wanted to do, big or small. Prime Minister, time you take an envelope, I was never too full of myself to do something. Right. And that's what makes it better for persons.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. So as a public figure, how do you find a healthy work-life balance?
Well, I didn't develop a work-life balance until being in a relationship, and I had to develop a work-life balance.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I know. And so I didn't have a work-life balance. I think there is a toxicity that develops in the professional environment where we feel guilty not being busy. Right. We feel guilty not being, and I realized that, I've been around long enough to know that they'll find someone, the work will go on. And so but also too, the odds were different for me. So when I first came into my role, no one thought I was capable of doing my role.
Really?
Yeah. So honestly, no one thought I was capable. There was this pushback that I was young, I was inexperienced, I didn't have the ability to manage people before, and so that it was a huge, significant risk making me director of communications, and I should be deputy director of communication to give me that, but give myself time to grow into the role. And so there was this huge shift that I had to prove myself. And proving myself meant I had to go above and beyond to do the role. And I had to do the extended hours. I had to not overcompensate, but I had to demonstrate that I belonged, to demonstrate that I was capable. And after 5 years, I thought the ultimate goal of success was winning a second election. That we had to build the communication infrastructure that allowed the government to win a second term. And we did, and that was vindication. And so now that we've won a second term, I take a vacation because I'm really sure that I can do this job. And so the pressure, and then, being in a relationship, so that have caused me to understand that there's life, there's other people that needs a piece of the tray. So, so my advice is, it is required. You gotta unplug at times. Burnout is real,
right?
But also too, we all are. Context is everything. We all at different space in our professional life. Sometimes you gotta give some sacrifice. Sometimes you gotta dedicate to the work to be at a particular place to be able to do the other things. And so that's my something like that.
Well, my final question for you would be: what accomplishment are you most proud of, and why?
I think the accomplishment I believe that I will be most proud of is being a part of the team that delivered the government a second term in 30 years. That was seen as a impossible norm. No government had ever been elected for a consecutive term in 30 years for a myriad of reasons. And we developed a formula. But I don't want to just extract my life just to politics. I think it goes back to my story that I believe that outside the political success, I hope that the biggest accomplishment I could look back and is that I have inspired a generation of young Bahamians to believe that if Latrae could do it, I could do it. And I hope that there are more, and also too that we have broken the ceiling that if you give young Bahamians opportunity, that we can do it, we can perform really, really well. And so I hope that I've inspired a generation of young people to come forward. And one of the things that I intend to do in this term is to advocate for 30% of senior roles in government to be filled by young persons, and to advocate for a fast track program where we find our best and brightest and pull them up into the public service. So winning a second term and inspiring a lot of young people, young Bahamians to come forward and be a part of public life.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
This has been an amazing conversation,
yes,
and we really appreciate your time.
No problem.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Inside the Chambers. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and comment, and stay tuned for more videos soon.